everybody, we're going to be creating a landscape today, and we're going to use 1-point perspective to draw our landscape. Perspective is the way that you see something, and artists use different techniques to create perspective in their artwork to make their artwork look a little bit more realistic. I'm going to walk you through every step on how to use 1-point perspective to draw your landscape. The supplies that you'll need is a white piece of paper and something to draw with. You will also need a straight edge. Now that can be a ruler if you have one of those at home, or if you don't, you can use a folder or a book to create your straight edge. If you have time, you can also color your picture in when you're finished, so you can use markers, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you have at home. Gather your supplies and we'll be ready to get started. Okay, I've gathered my supplies I'm going to need for this project. I need a pencil and a straight edge. So something like a ruler or even a folder or a book that you could use to make a straight edge. You don't have to have a ruler like this. This is just the kind of art ruler that I have at home. If you have time, you can also color your picture in, but let's start with just our pencil drawing first. Now remember, when we draw, we want to make sure that we're drawing lightly because we are going to be erasing some of our picture. So if your pencil doesn't have an eraser, make sure you have an eraser handy. Our first step is to draw the horizon line. So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to use it to draw a nice straight horizontal line. Now my horizon line is going to be a little bit closer to the top of the page, so it's not going to be right in the middle. The horizon line is where the land and the sky meet. So I'm going to draw a horizon line straight across. Now remember, I'm going to be erasing part of this, so I don't want to press too hard when I'm drawing. So we are creating 1-point perspective, which means we need a point that where all of our converging lines are going to meet. So I'm going to put a point right here, and eventually we'll erase our point later, but for right now, just put your point. It's not quite in the middle, so here my finger is right here in the middle of the sky, so kind of move it over to one side a little bit like I have. So our first step is we're going to draw the street. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line the edge of the ruler up with my point right here. And notice that my ruler is going diagonal. Now you don't want it way out here to the corner, or else you're not going to have room for your buildings, and you don't want it to just be like straight up and down like this. Okay, we want it to be diagonal, kind of like this. Now everybody's will be a little bit different, so don't stress if yours is not just like mine. I don't need to start right at the point. I'm going to start at the horizon line, and I'm going to draw a line from the horizon line all the way down to the bottom of my paper. Notice how my fingers are spread apart. That helps hold your ruler steady. If you hold it like this and don't press down, it's going to probably move on you as you draw. So there's one side of my street. So I'm going to do the sidewalk that's right next to that. So I'm going to, and it doesn't really matter which side of your ruler you use. If you have a clear ruler, it makes it a little bit easier to see. Since mine is solid, I'm putting it on this side so you all can see what I'm doing. So notice that the edge of my ruler is lined up with the point. And then I'm going to draw my sidewalk. Now you might notice that the sidewalk is wider here and closer together up here. That's because things that are closer to us look bigger and things that are farther away look smaller. That's perspective. So there's my sidewalk, and we'll draw the little lines across in just a minute. So now I'm going to do the other side of the street. Okay, so I line my ruler up with a dot, so the edge of my ruler is on the dot, and my line is going to be diagonal. Now I don't want to come all the way to the corner, so notice I'm not doing this. Okay, my ruler is not at the corner over here, it's just down a bit. So now I'm going to draw the other side of the road. Again, I don't need to start the point, I'm going to start the horizon line and draw the other side of the road. And then I'm going to do the sidewalk as well on this side. So I'm going to again line the edge of my ruler up with the point right here and make my sidewalk about however wide I want it to be at the bottom. So try to make it about the same width as over here. It doesn't have to be exact, but close enough. Okay, so now I'm going to use my ruler to draw my horizontal lines. And what I can do is I can just put my ruler across like this, and I can draw both horizontal lines at this for both sides of the sidewalk at the same time. Okay, so now I've got those little lines for my sidewalk. Now we're going to start on our building. So we're going to do one building that is going to be shorter than our point, and then one building that's going to be taller than our point. Our buildings are going to go on this side, and then we're going to do a row of trees over here. Okay, so our building to start off with is we're going to draw a rectangle shape, and it's going to be about right here. Now use your ruler so that everything is nice and neat. Don't just freehand draw these, because it may not turn out quite as nicely as you would like if you do that. And sometimes we might need to erase little bits that stick out like that. That's okay. So notice that my rectangle is below this dot. If you make it right even or above, it's not going to do what we want it to do. So make sure that your rectangle, or mine's kind of more square shape, but either one is fine. But the important part is that it's not either equal as high as or above this dot. Now we are going to be erasing part of the lines that we do next. So don't draw these too hard. What we're going to do is these two top corners, we're going to draw a line that matches from the corner to the dot. Now we're not going to draw the line all the way back, because that would be a lot of erasing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the edge of my ruler up with our point, and then the other edge I'm going to slide my ruler so it's lined up with that corner. And then I'm going to draw a line from the corner back just a little bit like that. Now I'm probably going to eventually erase some of that line, and that's okay. So I don't want to push too hard when I'm drawing. Now, if anytime you're ever confused, you can always pause to catch up or go back and watch again in case you miss something. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to line this corner and the dot up together, the point up together. Okay, so the edge of my ruler is on the point, and the edge of my ruler is on the corner, and then I'm going to draw a line like that. Okay, so this is going to be the top of our building. We're working on the roof right now. Now, the next two steps are the part that people have the most trouble with. I'm going to draw a horizontal line. So that means it doesn't line up with the point. It's a horizontal line. It's going to be parallel to this line right here. That means that they would never touch. They keep going off into distance, never touching. So a horizontal line. Now, check that your ruler's horizontal, and then it's not going like this or like this. It's horizontal. You can even use your horizon line as a guide, or you can use the straight edge of your paper as a guide. Sometimes I'll show you how to use the edge of your ruler and the straight edge of your paper and line them up so that they're lined up perfectly, and then that will make your ruler horizontal when you do it like that. So I'm going to draw a line, a horizontal line in between these two lines here, like that. Now I've got this extra that I'm going to erase. If you are confused about how to draw that, go back and watch again to see what I did. Now I'll erase those extra bits of those lines. Now our last step is we're going to draw a vertical, so a straight up and down line for the back side of the building. The line that we're getting ready to draw is going to be parallel to this line right here. I'm going to line the edge of my ruler up with the straight edge of my paper, and then I'm going to start at this corner and I'm going to draw a straight line down. So don't just freehand it. Line your ruler up and make sure it's nice and straight vertical line from this corner here all the way down to the sidewalk. And now I've just created a building that looks 3D and it's drawn in 1-point perspective. We'll go back in and add some doors and windows in a little bit, but first we're going to draw our next building. So this next building that we're going to draw is going to be taller than our 1 point here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this line right here. I'm going to make it come up higher. So I'm going to line my ruler back up with it, and I'm going to draw this line so it goes higher than the point. You don't want it to be even with the point. You want it to go higher than your point, because these buildings are going to touch. Oftentimes when you're in kind of like a city or a downtown area, the buildings often touch each other. So now I'm going to draw another vertical line, and I'm going to draw it about right here. So I'm going to make sure my ruler is nice and straight up and down, and I'm going to draw another vertical line kind of around here somewhere. It doesn't have to be in the exact same place as mine. You can put it kind of in a different spot along this line if you would like. And then I'm going to draw a horizontal line to connect these two. Got a little bit of extra right there, so I'm going to erase that. I'm also going to erase my horizon line, because this building is going to overlap my horizon line. So I don't want to see my horizon line through the building. Okay, now we don't need to do this corner. We only need to do this corner. So we're going to match this corner up with the point. The reason we're not doing this one is because this building is taller. And if I were to match this up to this corner, then I'd end up drawing through the building. And we don't want to do that. We want our buildings to be solid. So I'm just going to do just this one corner here. Okay, so I'm matching my ruler up with the point and with this one corner. And then I'm going to draw a line like that. I don't need to go all the way to the point. Just draw a line back a little bit. And now I need to draw the back side of the building. So I'm just going to do a vertical line from here. So straight up and down. Make sure you check your ruler and make sure it's straight up and down and not going sideways. And draw all the way down to the sidewalk. And then I need to erase my horizon line through that part of the building. Okay, so now I've got two buildings drawn in 1 point perspective. So now I'm just going to add some doors and windows. So I'm going to add a door right here, and you can use your ruler if you would like, or you can, if you can draw a nice straight, few straight lines for your door, you can do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a door here, and then I'm just going to draw some lines for my windows on this one. We'll do regular windows on the other one. I'm just going to do some lines on the front of the building like that. Now for the lines on the side of the building, I'm going to use my point because they're going to be converging lines. So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to line it up to that point, and I'm going to line it up to here. And just watch in case you're confused. Once you see the finished thing, it might make a little bit more sense. So rather than just continue drawing straight across, I need to use my ruler and line up with my point for the lines on the side of the building. Like that. And I could even go in and add one more if I wanted to, or I can just leave with two. Now I'm going to put some windows on this side of the building. So, and again, you can use your ruler, or if you can draw these neat enough without your ruler, you can do it without your ruler. If you can draw your windows neat enough without it. And I could add some other ones on this side, or I could add a door if I want to, but I'm going to leave it like this, I think. If I were going to add windows or doors on the side, then I would want to use my converging lines and my point to draw those. But to keep it a little bit more simple, I'm just going to do my windows on the front of the building. That keeps things a little bit more simple. So there are our buildings drawn. Now we're going to do like a line of trees down this side of the road. Now this next line we're going to draw, we're eventually going to erase. So make sure you don't do it really, really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my ruler up with the point and then just over here to the side of my paper. And I'm going to draw it really lightly. And I'm going to go all the way from the point to the edge of the paper. And again, don't do it hard because we're going to eventually erase that line. That line is going to tell me where the tops of the trees are going to go, because the tops of the trees are still going to line up with our point right here. So what I'm going to do is along this line, I'm going to draw. Now remember, things that are closer to us are bigger. So my first top of my tree is going to be the biggest. And I'm going to make them overlap each other, but each one's going to get a little bit smaller. We'll draw the trunks in a little bit, but the tops of the trees are going to not go above that line. Okay, so there. You want about 4 or 5 trees. If you have more than 4, that's fine. If you only have room for 3, that's okay too. You just want kind of a row of trees, and now I'm going to draw their trunks in. So the first tree is going to have a bigger trunk. The second tree's trunk is going to be a little bit smaller. And remember, as we go down, each one's going to get smaller because things that are farther away look smaller. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to erase that line that I drew, that guiding line. And I can go back. I kind of erased some of my trees a little bit when I did that, and that's okay. Go back and erase that. Now, one last thing I want to do is I'm going to draw in the street lines. So again, I am going to use my ruler. Things that are farther away look smaller. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to make these lines bigger. And then as I go back, they're going to get smaller. Now I'm not measuring, so they're not going to be exact and perfect, but the lines back here are smaller than the lines up here. And I can add some things if I want to, like I can add a sun, I could add some clouds in here if I would like to. You can make it a sunset. It's your choice. Now, I can erase my point here because I don't need it anymore. Now I'm going to outline each of my lines with a black marker. You can do this or you can leave it as just a pencil line. And I'm going to color in my picture as well. You could use colored pencils, markers, crayons, whatever you would like. But I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's all colored in. So here's what it would look like totally colored in. Again, you can just do a pencil drawing if you don't have any supplies or if you don't have time to color in. That's okay too. If you do have extra time, you can color in. You can give it a sunset. You can choose whatever you want. If you could even, if you have extra room, add more buildings if you want to, or add any extra details in. I hope you enjoyed creating this artwork, and I can't wait to see everybody's creations. Bye.